our next guest, which is Swansea singer-songwriter, gorgeous Mal Pope. Born into a family of teachers, he began learning to play the guitar aged just 7. A few years later, Mal sent a tape of songs to John Peel, who invited him to perform at the BBC, which led to a recording contract with Elton John's label. Mal Pope, a very, very good welcome to Good Morning Sunday this morning. How are you?
Yeah, well, a very good morning to both of you. It's a joy to be with you.
Good morning, Mal.
It's a joy to have you. How was last night? Swansea Grand, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was great. The 125th anniversary concert, and they asked a lot of us who were there originally to come back. So that was great. You know, it was a fantastic night, and it's lovely to see a theatre full again. And
yes.
theatre's been through so much. All theatre's been through trouble over the last couple of years, but for about a year or so, the Grand Theatre was a COVID testing centre. Well, last night it was full, packed on the stage and off the stage, and it was again a joy to be there.
Oh, I bet you didn't get to sleep very quickly. I bet the adrenaline was still up when you came off stage. It took you a while to bring it all back down.
Now, the thing is, I knew I had to get up early this morning, so I came home, had tea and toast, and then I saw the Rolling Stones in concert on the TV.
I was watching that as well, and that's the reason. Honestly, Mal, I couldn't switch it off.
No, it was brilliant. It was brilliant. There we are. We all love music, don't we? We all love it.
Fantastic.
And where did your love of music come from then?
I think from my parents, my grandmother, Mavanwi. She was 4 foot tall and 5 foot wide. She played the pump harmonium in our little gospel hall. In the gospel hall that I was brought up in, people used to sing in 4-part harmony. It sounds a bit like the Waltons or like a cliche, but on the Sunday morning, we didn't have an organist. My grandmother took the morning off, so we used to sing in harmony. And so, and we'd sing Sankey's sacred songs and solos. Uncle Dan would be at the front. He'd pitch the hymns. And from a baby, I sort of found my own place in that 4-part harmony. So, yeah, my love of music started there, but really, I suppose, once my brother brought his guitar home from Spain, I was 7. I nicked it. I listened to his record collection, which was Simon & Garfunkel, Cat Stevens, Elton John, and all of that, and I was completely hooked. And I started writing my own versions of their songs. That's how it started.
How wonderful. It sounds idyllic. I mean, those 4-part harmonies in the gospel hall sound like a thing of incredible beauty. There is something deeply spiritual about our music, though, isn't there? Whether you're a person of faith now or not, there's something that connects us with this kind of sense of something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is you don't know your own culture, do you? You can see it in other people. I spent quite a lot of time in the Deep South and been to black gospel churches. In fact, I went to a church that was run by the Reverend Willie Morganfield. He was Muddy Waters' first cousin.
Wow.
And his church singing sounded like the blues, but with the lighter side of the blues.
Yeah.
And I hadn't really noticed as I was growing up how unique the sound of my church was, those harmonies. And it took me, when you're 16, your parents know nothing. By the time you're 21, you can't believe how much they've learned in the last 5 years. And it was a bit like that with the music. I didn't realise how wonderful it was. And that training, I hopefully stood me in. I'm still doing 4-part harmony backing vocal sessions from my little shed even to this day. And I thank my grandmother and my church for that.
So coming through the church, and then what happened at the age of 13?
So I sent it to, in fact, what it was, I used to sing at the sort of like the youth, on a Sunday night after youth group. They'd put me on a little chair and they say, sing your latest songs, Mal. And I was 12 years old and it was quite nice. And then one of my brother's friends said, you should send your songs to John Peel on Radio 1. And this is completely true. I didn't know who he was because his show started at 10 o'clock. It was past my bedtime. Anyway, I found my dad's tape recorder, recorded 5 or 6 songs, sent it off. And about 6 weeks later, I got a letter back from his producer saying, can you ask your dad to get in touch? And that letter changed my life. That's the letter that changed my life, I think. Totally different direction. So we went up. All of us had new suits. 3 of us went. My 2 brothers and myself. We all went up to London. I met Jimmy Young, and then spent the afternoon with John Peel. Recorded a session. And then the world really did go mad. Elton John signed me to his record label. And it was interesting because there were, you have to give all the information, don't you? John Peel's producer said, look, it's a couple of people interested in recording you, signing you to a record deal. One's a bit fly-by-night, we think. They're called Virgin. But the other one is Elton. We know Elton. Elton's a good guy. We know all the people involved. And in fact, the reason why my parents, so you can imagine now, my dad's a Sunday school superintendent and a headmaster. My mother's a teacher all her life. And they suddenly get these rock and roll types turning up at their house. And the only reason that they really let me sign was that Steve Brown from Rocket Records, who was one of Elton's early mentors, his dad was in the Salvation Army. And Steve
must be all right then.
So they thought that there is some depth to these people, and it was what an amazing. In fact, I look back now and it's almost like it happened to somebody else.
Oh, wonderful memories! And you mentioned some broadcasting legends there in Jimmy and John. Can I just ask you about Elton's parties? Are you allowed to talk about the parties?
I think so. Yeah,
what were they like?
Well, I was like the record company mascot. So I remember I went to see him with my brother. We went to the Hammersmith Odeon, then we went back to this in Covent Garden somewhere. First person I saw was Cat Stevens. He was my idol. The guy serving behind the bar was Graham Chapman from Monty Python. He was the barman for the night. And so Elton arrived after his gig. It's a wonderful gig, and I've got my autograph book. So Elton took me round to meet everybody and get them to sign my autograph book, like Ringo Starr. He had to wake up Mickey Dolenz from the Monkees because he'd fallen asleep on the cushions. Brian Ferry and Brian Eno. I mean, Brian Ferry had a gabardine coat on. It was a bit scary. But I still got the autograph book, and then other things like I used to go and stay. He's incredibly generous. I don't think anybody would deny that fact. And he's raised so much money for the AIDS charities. But he's a genuinely lovely lad. He has his moments, don't we all, Jace? He has his moments.
Jason definitely has
Thank
his
you, Mel.
diva moments.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that for now.
You can tell that Mal and I go back.
But I remember so he took me training with Watford Football Club. When I'd go and stay with him, he'd get the Subbuteo football out, and I beat him 3-2.
Did you win?
Yeah, 3-2.
You beat Elton at Subbuteo.
Yeah, he was much better at me at bar football. He was an expert at bar football. And the record company would do amazing things. Like I remember I was staying there doing some recording. I had the day off. They said there's going to be a special day tomorrow. There's going to be a cab come and pick you up. So they picked me up, took me to this big, big house, knocked on the door, and Pete Townsend opened the door. And behind him is Keith Moon. It's their recording studio. They were recording Pinball Wizard.
Amazing.
And they'd got me a little chair just above the piano booth for me to watch Elton record Pinball Wizard. So they were wonderful. I mean, the first time I recorded with Elton was at Abbey Road. I walked in Friday. I'd spent all day in... Oh, you'd like this, Jace. The week before, Elton had got me tickets to the FA Cup final, Liverpool versus Manchester United.
Oh, right.
I'd stayed the weekend, and then I went back to school for the week. Came back on the Friday, nice and early, walked into the studio, and there's Eric Morecambe. Because they were making a charity record with Brian Moore from On the Ball. And Elton said, Maldwin, he used to call me Blodwin. He used to call me Blodwin Pig because he could never remember me. So he said, Maldwin, this is Eric Morecambe. Well, of course I know it's Eric Morecambe. He said, where are you from, boy? And I said, well, Mr. Morecambe, I'm from Swansea. And he said, me and Ernie did our first gig at the Empire. So that was fun. It was sort of, every day would be something completely bizarre. And but I was 13, 14, 15 years old and I took it in my stride.
Amazing, Mal. It's Good Morning Sunday with the Reverend Kate Botley
Hello.
and me, Jason Mohammad. 8:33, very special guest today, someone I've known for years and years and years. We worked together on BBC Radio Wales. Mal Pope is with us, singer-songwriter. Mal, you have to tell us about Fireman Sam. How did that come about?
I was young. I needed the money.
Don't we all?
Well, the thing is, S4C, as you know, Jace, Welsh language.
Espedwar Ek.
Da iawn, Kate.
Well, da iawn in
Hey,
Kate.
you know that Kate Welsh is developing very quickly. She did Iaith ar Daith on S4C, Language on the Road, the TV show. She did ever so well.
I want to know about Fireman Sam.
So we started doing Wales started making TV programmes, but it was hard to sell Welsh language TV programmes. It wasn't like the Scandi programmes now where people are used to subtitles. So Wales started making cartoons. So the first one I did was Super Ted. And after a big hit with Super Ted, then they said, can you do there was a cartoon about a fireman, and you do these things and you never think how far they're going to go, but I get, was it 28,000 views on my YouTube channel of me singing Fireman Sam every month, and people from all around the world, because kids grew up with it, and I sang it in Welsh as well, Sam Tan. So in some parts of the world where English wasn't quite so popular at various times of the last 40 years. Yeah. I'm known for singing it in Welsh instead. I think Al Jazeera used to play it in Welsh. So
amazing.
I love the past. I like to visit it, but I don't want to live there.
No. Mike Young developed Super Ted, of course. Did he know which football team you supported when he gave you the gig?
You think? Well, the thing is now then, Jason, you're a bluebird and I'm a swan. What this means, Kate, is we love each other like brothers. And you know how brothers love each other. You know how brothers love each other. So, yeah. Hey, by the way, Gareth Bale scored a great goal yesterday. Jason thought he's opened his account.
Thank you very much. Yeah, well, he turned us down, didn't he, to go to Los Angeles, which we're very happy about. Anyway, let's move on, shall we? Let's talk about music, because we just played some Ollie Murs there, and, you were watching the Rolling Stones gig last night when you came in from your gig. I was as well. What do you think about modern music, Mel?
I love it. The thing is, you can get all old-fashioned and stuff, but I listen to everything. And the great thing is, I'm in my garden shed now. I do make records here that do go all around the world.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, it was harder to do that. My dad's Philips tape recorder with one tape. So you've got to embrace the technology, and we've all done that, I think, during lockdown. I was listening to Nina Perro last week, was it? Talking about Paolo doing her lockdown records. We've all done them, but it's opened up new ways of making records. So all my band, and we've been together since we were teenagers, they've all got their own studios. So we just, some of them used to email their performances in sometimes anyway, Jace, but this time they do it for real, and it's a real joy to make music, because I'm quite excited to find out what they will add to a song that I've written in my garden shed.
Yes, of course. Of course, we're big fans here on Good Morning Sunday. We play a lot of your records, and I have to say, they're absolutely terrific. And what's the story behind The Border?
Well, actually, it was inspired by, again, somebody that we both know, Beverly Humphries, the lovely Beverly Humphries, as I always call her. So Beverly is this remarkable character. She's an opera singer. She's a radio presenter. Her strapline for her radio program is "Bring Your Dreams," and you wouldn't expect her to have a different life. She looks after the homeless. She works in a food bank, and she's the trusted adult for 5 boys who crossed the Atlantic as children, unaccompanied adults, as they were called, unaccompanied children. And she was telling me the story about all of them, really, how difficult it has been and the struggles just to adapt. But they've all gone to be productive lives. They're in university or they're working. And I had a song, and it was the water. And that story about Paul McCartney. For ages, yesterday it was called Scrambled Eggs, because when you write a song, you just sort of like sing anything. And I had these words, water, water, water. And then I heard the story. So in fact, the story's about these lads crossing the border. But we've been crossing borders all our lives.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Welsh saying, "Don't be a wall, be a bridge." He would be a leader. Let him be a bridge. And in many ways, we're all immigrants. I'm an immigrant. My first name's Maldwyn, but my surname is Pope. That's the Welsh and the English mixing together. And but the song sounds a little bit more Tex-Mex. Sometimes it's easier to cross a border against the Rio Grande than maybe one closer to home. And in fact, on the record, one of the lads, one of Beverly's boys, as she calls them, Tess Fallon, reads verses from the Bible about how you should treat strangers in Tigray. So I just wanted to put all those things together. In the time that I've got left, I've been doing this a very, very long time, but in the time I've got left, and I was talking to my mum. My mum sadly just passed away 2 weeks ago, and I was telling her about this, that I got, Mum, I've been doing this for such a long time, and she said to me, "We are immortal until our work is done." And that's really struck home with me. Obviously, my mum's work is done now, but I still feel there is something I'm supposed to do, and I haven't quite done it yet. And I hope these songs are a part of that journey to get me to where my idol was a guy called Moses. Moses, he did a lot when he was a teenager, and then he worked for 60 years with the sheep, and, preparing for his big job when he was 80. Now, I'm not quite there yet, Kate, but it's not that far off. Yeah, so I hope these songs actually make a difference to people as they hear them.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us this morning, and we're thinking of you and your gorgeous mum and remembering her. We're going to play The Border now. Will you come back again and talk to us again soon?
Oh, I would love
We'd
to.
love that.
It's been a joy.
Oh,
it's been
a delight. Joy. Have a wonderful day. Hoi Lamatro. Is that right?
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, Diane. Very good.
Bob Oil.